Hi, I'm today with Dr. Yuval Zolotov. Doctor, thank you for your time. The doctor is a medical cannabis expert with experience in clinical research, public health research, medical and patient education, and business development around any other many things. But first of all, can you present yourself, doctor? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself, your career? What do you do?
Sure, yeah. Thank you for having me for this interview. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Yuval Zolotov. I started my journey with medical cannabis around 2007, just in the very beginning of the medical cannabis industry here in Israel. And I was joining with other people to found a company which later became a very big company in Israel called Tikkun Olam for medical cannabis. And I was head of patient education in this company. It started when there were really very few people licensed for medical cannabis in Israel. And we were the first company that was licensed by the Ministry of Health to grow medical cannabis and distribute it to the patients. At some years later, I shifted my attention from the industry to the academia, and I did my master's in health administration and public health, where my thesis, my research for my master's was around adherence of medical cannabis patients to using medical cannabis. So we found that not all patients that are licensed by the government to use medical cannabis, in fact, use it. And we try to understand more about this and the reasons why patients are not using medical cannabis, although they are licensed by the government. Then I started to do my PhD, and in my PhD in public health in the University of Haifa in Israel, I studied physicians about their understanding and their practices about medical cannabis. So, trying to understand the mindset of physicians. I had interviews and also a survey of physicians in Israel about their attitudes, about their behaviors, about medical cannabis. After I finished my PhD, I worked for some years as a research fellow in another university in Israel, in the Regional Alcohol and Drug Abuse Research Center at Ben Gurion University of the Negev. And I was then involved in the international research where we studied students, medical students, but also students of other health professions like nursing, psychology, social work, and others to understand their attitudes about medical cannabis and their knowledge gaps and their training needs about this topic. Um, I then started a postdoctoral fellowship, and I am still a postdoctoral fellow at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in the Bronx, in New York, in the Division of General Internal Medicine, where I joined a group of investigators that are conducting several projects related to medical cannabis in chronic pain patients to understand better if cannabis can be useful for reducing the consumption of opioid medications. And this is where I am still doing my research. Yes, so here I
Doctor,
am.
where for what I heard, I noticed that you have been focused on this, um, on the knowledge that medical doctor has and the relation they have with the plant and the knowledge about the plant of cannabis, and also this kind of relation, how this correlates with patients, right? Is that
Yeah,
what you focus on it?
yeah. My work so far is focused both on the patient level to understand the impact of using medical cannabis on patient outcomes and well-being, but also very much on the provider level. So trying to understand the perceptions of physicians about cannabis and about integrating medical cannabis into their practices and what are the challenges. And this is, of course, has to do also with education. Yeah, another project that I was leading recently was with a group of experts here in the United States to try to have a list of competencies for medical education about cannabis, because right now cannabis is not a part of the curriculum for physicians when they go to medical school. So we are trying to have a foundation for including uh, some areas about of this topic into the medical curriculum in medical schools. So there is still, I think, a long way or relatively a long way before cannabis is integrated, because Western medicine is very much based on evidence-based medicine, and cannabis as a plant is not a standardized ingredient component. It has many ingredients, and it's being also consumed by many, not in a very, so smoking is not a very medical way of using a drug. So there are still a long way for the industry also, but also for the medical establishment to understand what may be the benefits of using this plant for certain patients, for certain indications, and how to make informed decisions and how to have honest conversations between physicians and their patients about this treatment modality.
As you mentioned, there's still so many challenges in educations to physicians, health professionals, doctors, medical doctors. But at the same time, we are seeing a shift in the views around the plant that and around regulations around the plant on cannabinoids. How is going to how is going to these changes right now? What is happening right now? How is going to impact in the near future on all the clinical research, on all the research around cannabis and cannabinoids on patients, on medical doctors? Do you see like that we are near like a point of advancement, or we're going to keep on this slow trend in the access and in the knowledge on the answers to these challenges?
That's a good question. So I'm not expecting a dramatic change, honestly. I think the change will keep in relatively slow pace, maybe. And also, as you said, so one very important aspect of advancing this field is research. And
Right.
also one important element for research is funding for research. So the involvement of medical cannabis is very different than other medications, where there is a lot of research before a drug is being introduced into the market. And it has to do with regulatory approvals and FDA approvals, etc. On the other hand, cannabis was and is still being introduced to the markets without research, and it is a different regulatory mechanism than other medications, pharmaceutical medications, and so it's I think we need to advocate for more research and for more funding sources for research, whether it's from the government or the industry or philanthropic foundations and other mechanisms through which there will be more funding available to researchers, because I think there is quite a lot of researchers that are interested to get more information and more evidence about using this plant. But it needs to be more coordinated and also to have access to more funding in order to advance the research in this field.
Right. Money is always the problem everywhere. Talking
Yes.
about researchers' knowledge, you are, Doctor, you are one of the speakers of Cannabis World Congress. This is an event that is going to happen November the 12th, November 13th on Medellin, Colombia, at the Intercontinental Hotel in Medellin. You are one of the many speakers, many researchers that are going to be present on that day. What are you going to be speaking about that day to people in Latin America?
Yeah, so I'm very excited to be in Cannabis World Congress, and it will be my first time in Colombia. I've been in many conferences about medical cannabis in many places, but still not in Latin America. And I've heard very good feedback from colleagues about the previous editions of this event, the Cannabis World Congress. So I very much look forward to being there and getting also to know more about the situation in Colombia specifically, but also more largely in Latin America. My talk in this event will, the title of my talk is very related to the topics that I told you that I am involved in and have been working on. So the title is The Challenging Integration of Cannabis into Medical Education and the Clinical Practice. And this will be an overview of research, much of which of research that I did, but also others about the viewpoints and the knowledge gaps of practitioners about medical cannabis, and also some potential avenues for how to move forward to advancing the knowledge and the integration of cannabis into the clinic.
Great. One last question, Doctor. This is what's your message to young researchers that are interested on studying things around cannabis that they have not choose like an area of working? I'm talking about very young researchers. What they should do? Where are the opportunities to not only work but to do something interesting on the research area in the areas and places or common places that you work on?
Yeah, so I think, sorry, that there are many potential topics to do research. I mean, for me, it is very interesting phenomenon, the evolving the involvement of medical cannabis in so many places around the world, and it has many aspects. So I am more focused on the medical and the public health aspect, but it also has to do with the sociological and historical and political, maybe, and anthropological, and of course people who are more into chemistry or biochemistry, and there is so much to study. For me, public health is very, I think, interesting, and because cannabis, also not only medical cannabis, but cannabis in general, but also specifically medical cannabis, is very in the intersection of the public and health. So in this, I think there is a very important impact of cannabis, and how to have harm reduction strategies, to have policies that are focused on public health. Um, and yeah, for me, this is the most interesting, but of course, others can disagree, and there are many potential areas to research this.
Right. Doctor, is there anything you would like to add to this interview?
I know that I look forward to be in Canada in Medellin in November, and I hope to see many people there. So please join us to this Congress, and see you there.
Dr. Yuval Zolotov, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.